The single greatest obstacle keeping you from winning the money game isn't what most people expect it to be. It's not necessarily the actions that you're taking or the industry that you're in. It's actually fundamentally before all of that. It's how you think about money. And I know that sounds woo-woo. Like, oh, I think my way into abundance. I think about how money flows freely to me, and then it just manifests, right? That's what a lot of people think when I talk about how you think about money impacting your ability to make money. But it's true, because your thoughts drive your actions ultimately drive your results. And the thing about this that I've noticed, having worked with a number of people now that are like relatively successful in the money game, is that it's not just you win the game once and you're done with it. It's that you continually, as you're leveling up, having to fight new devils, right? They say new levels, new devils. But the truth is that those devils aren't really new. They're the same devils, they're just wearing different clothing. And so what I want to unpack in this video today are 5 of those devils, 5 of those big bad bosses that you have to fight in the video game of life if you want to win the money game. So boss number 1 is the wealth is a ratio boss. See, wealth isn't really a number that you hit and you're done, right? It's not like $5 million in the bank or $50 million. It's not about that. Wealth is the ratio between what you make and what you keep. So if you make $5 million a year, but you spend $5 million a year, then you are ultimately broke. Like, you have no wealth accumulated. Whereas if you're making $100,000 a year, but your living expenses are, say, super low, say $10,000 a year, then every year that you work, you actually are accumulating $90,000 of wealth. That's, the $10,000 of expenses minus the $100,000 of your income. That means that you have 9 years of wealth. After 1 year of working at that ratio, you could take the next 9 years off, and if you maintain that same $10,000 a year expense line, then you could go 9 years without having to work again. That's how we think about wealth. But the problem is, as you make more money, you will be inclined to want to spend more money. This is called lifestyle creep, right? Like you go up that next income bracket, you go from 100,000 to 250, to 250 to 500, 500 to a million. Now you got to go get that nicer car, you got to get that nicer house, you got to get all the nicer things. And so your wealth doesn't grow in this linear way that people kind of expect it. What ends up happening is you make more and you end up spending more, and you still feel just as behind as you were when you were making $100,000. And so unless you can change the relationship that you have with that ratio of your wealth, you are always going to feel behind, no matter how much you make. The second boss that you have to fight is the wealth as a thermostat boss. So everybody has this number that they consider normal when it comes to money, right? When you try to buy something, let's say you go buy an iPad, you think, okay, $1,000 is a reasonable amount to spend on this iPad. So you go into the store and you'll spend that $1,000 on the iPad, no questions asked. Maybe your thermostat actually has you set to $500. So you go into that store and you look at this iPad and you think that's 2 times more expensive than what I consider normal, therefore it's too much, right? Now contrast that with somebody who goes around and they're like, I think in denominations of $10,000. That person goes into the store, they'll buy 10 iPads. They don't care. They're like, give me the most maxed out, specced out thing. I don't care how much it costs, as long as it's underneath $10,000. I'm not even thinking about it, right? In your life, you have numbers that you associate with different things, whether that's a car, whether that's a house, whether that's electronics, whether that's eating out. Like, you have numbers that you have calibrated inside of your mind to be normal. That's your thermostat. And anytime you are spending more than that, your thermostat kicks in to try to cool you off. It starts to bring you down and go, whoa, 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 maybe you should rethink that. In the same way, if you're spending underneath that thermostat, it doesn't even register. You're just like, yeah, let me just throw money at that. So here's the trick, is if you want to win the money game, you have to increase your money thermostat. You have to increase the temperature, the denomination that you consider normal. So instead of thinking in $500 increments, you start thinking in $5,000 increments or $50,000 increments. Because again, wealth is a ratio between what you make and what you keep, but if you can increase your earning capacity, say 10x, and you go from $500 an hour to $50,000 an hour, you are going to put yourself in a position where you have more on that spectrum to work with on your ratio. And so when it comes to your thermostat, what I recommend is, for a lot of people, you will never feel comfortable charging other people a number that you yourself have not spent. And so one of the quickest, easiest ways to increase your baseline thermostat is to increase what you're willing to spend on things. Now, that can be at odds with the wealth as a ratio game, because if you just are spending more and more of the limited money that you have, that's not gonna work so well, right? So it's a mindset that you have to get into the habit of thinking, okay, what is the value that I'm getting, not just the price that I'm paying? That is how you marry those two different bosses. And they're kind of like, if you were playing a video game, they're like twin bosses. You have to like fight them simultaneously, and then you level up. It's a difficult part of the game, but it's mandatory if you want to win. Okay, let's get to boss number 3. Boss number 3 is the wealth is a scarce boss. Most people struggle to make money because they think of it as a scarce resource. They think there's only so much of it to go around. They think of it as like a pie to be divided amongst all the different people. And so for me to get ahead in the money game means that you have to lose out. I have to get ahead at your expense. And honestly, this is how like the majority of the world's population operates. They think of the money game as this finite resource. But the reality is that's just, it's an illusion. It's actually, money is an infinite game. It is an infinite resource because we can just print more of it. And really, money isn't even the thing that you're after. You're after what the money can get you. And what the money can get you are all the resources, all the tools, all the fun things of life, right? And those are only ever expanding. Like if you look around, like we have more nice houses than we did 100 years ago. More people are living with air conditioning than they were 100 years ago, or with electric lighting, right? So like you are getting wealthier over time. And so to think about wealth and think about money as this finite resource that it means I have to cut your throat to get ahead, it's actually limiting you, because most people are inherently good, and I don't want to get ahead if it comes at the expense of somebody else. And so if that's your operating system, you're always going to be subconsciously sabotaging yourself. You're never going to be showing up and actually trying to win the money game, because you know in your mind, in the back of it, that it means somebody else is getting hurt. But the reality is that nobody is getting hurt by you getting ahead. In fact, let me challenge you with this, is that if you do believe that money is a finite resource and that it is a limited game, then there are people out there who have collected a lot of it and they are not doing good things with it. And so you have a moral imperative to go out and get that money from those bad people. I'm not saying rob them, I'm not saying tax them, I'm saying go and earn it in the marketplace of ideas and of products and of delivering value. Go get that money and then do better things with it. Okay, that's my challenge to you. But either way, you will never beat the wealth is a scarce resource boss by thinking about it as this limited resource that you getting ahead comes at the expense of somebody else. All right, boss number 4. This is the wealth is shallow boss. A lot of people, because of the previous boss of being a limited resource, they just default to the position of, okay, for me to get ahead means somebody else has to get knocked down a peg. I don't want to play that game. Therefore, playing the wealth game is stupid. It's shallow. It's for other people, right? You convince yourself that it's not even a game worth playing. And so this is the position that I adopted for like the first 25 years of my life. I was like, I don't need money. I'm fine living in the back of a van, being a dirtbag rock climber. But you can't win the game that you refuse to play. You can't win the game that you refuse to even acknowledge is worth playing and winning in the first place. And so what I would encourage you to consider is that wealth is not shallow. Wanting money is not a bad thing, because you can do a lot of really good things with money. In fact, the people with money, with resources, have the ability to do more good in the world than the people that do not have the resources. And so I would actually say money is a really good thing. But if you are of that mindset that wealth is shallow, then I challenge you to consider this. Wealth doesn't solve all your problems, but it does solve all your money problems. And when your money problems are freed up, your shelter, your food, your clothing, it frees you to focus on the things in life that fill you with purpose, with meaning, that are like considered the highest and truest pursuits of humanity, right? But you can't do that when you're worried about putting food on the table for your family. You can't do that if you're not sure where you're gonna sleep at night. And so at minimum, go and beat this boss to a degree that would allow you to go and focus on the other things in life and bring your unique gifts to humanity's aid. But do not just write off the money game as being shallow. That is just a loser's mentality, and it's protecting your ego from even trying. And I'm telling you that you will fail on this game, in this pursuit of winning the money game, more often than you win, but you only have to win it once if you play it right. Boss number 5. Wealth isn't a number, boss. This is really important. And it ties into what I was just talking about before, is that a lot of people think that they want financial freedom, but they don't understand that there is no magic number that you hit and you achieve this feeling of financial freedom, of security. So if there is no number that you can hit that will give you that feeling, you have to understand that wealth itself is simply a feeling. You can feel wealthy, you can feel enough. Financial freedom is a mindset, not a number in the bank. You can be financially free if you only have $100,000 in the bank. If you are willing to live below your means, live a modest life, if you're willing to suffer the difficulties that will inevitably arise in life that you do not have the financial resources to deal with. I was that person in my 20s. Like when you're in your 20s, you need a whole lot less to feel financially free. You have $5,000 in the bank, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm rich, right? When you're in your 50s, you probably don't feel that way. What fundamentally changed? You have more responsibilities, you have more accountabilities, you have more things that you own that in turn own you. But I encourage you to consider that you can get rid of all that stuff. You could take a step back, and if you're willing to start from zero and just say, I don't need that stuff, I'm comfortable starting the game over from zero, playing it from the start. Like, I don't need a certain amount of money in the bank to feel secure, because I know the most valuable resource that I've accumulated over the course of my life is not the money, it's the person I became in pursuit of the money, the person I had to become to be worthy, to be able to beat those bosses. And that person can't be taken from you. So even if you lose the money, you always have that person. And that's the person that will make you feel financially free, not the number in the bank. So focus on that. Focus on beating these other bosses. It's just a matter of time until you win the money game.